Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. We are going to give people about 30 more seconds to be able to join the session, and then we will get started. All right, everybody. This is our webinar. The clock is ticking on Microsoft Project Online. A few housekeeping items. I am Megan Testani. I'm the Global Marketing Director here at Broadpin, and we are excited to host you today. If you could, please use the Q&A panel to ask any questions. We would love to answer them at the end of the webinar. But to start, let's kick things off with Craig Stavert.
Thank you, Megan. And as you said, good morning to those in the West, good afternoon to those in the East, and good evening to those who are ending their days. Welcome to The Clock is Ticking on Microsoft's Project Online. And what will you do about it? What will you do next? I think on October 1st, the Microsoft Community Hub had an announcement which said that the sale of Microsoft Project Online would be ceased. In that announcement, they also said that the product would no longer be available beginning on September 30th. So we're essentially entering a 90-day window where we have to make a decision on what's next per this session today. We think that the challenges faced by owners and by general contractors to deliver capital projects has never been greater. And I think there's a great research book put out by an author, Bent Flyberg, and it's called Mega Projects at Risk: An Anatomy of Ambition. And his findings in his research were that 90% of all projects are delivered over budget, that 70% of all projects are delivered past the deadline, and that 50% of all capital projects are delivered over budget and past the deadline. So this creates an interesting conundrum for all of you on here that are working with capital projects. It's also a market opportunity for us to help you to standardize on your project planning applications and the chance to modernize as well. Oracle has been supporting P6 for decades. It's become the planning standard in the marketplace. We have a new product now, a new planning application called Oracle Primavera Cloud, or OPC. You'll be hearing about that today. So you're being hosted today jointly by Oracle, which is recognized for decades of leadership in data, applications, sales, and also co-hosted by Broadpin. You may know them formerly as project partners. They're a global IT consulting services firm specializing in Oracle ecosystems. So we're excited to be here today doing this together. I think both companies understand the myriad scheduling requirements which persist throughout every organization. I've had customers kind of give me a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, looking at the simplest projects and what application addresses them to the most complex. We think we're going to cover that whole spectrum today. We appreciate you investing the time with us, and we encourage you to contact us after to make plans for best next steps. So with that, we've got a great panel today. We've got Nicole, Garrett, Josh, and Fahad. We're going to start by I'm going to kick it over to Nicole to say a few words and introduce herself.
Thank you, Craig. So I'm Nicole Clark. I am a Center of Excellence lead here at Broadpin in North America. Prior to joining Broadpin, I was the CIO for a regional construction and materials company, and I have spent years in this industry as a CIO and an applications leader. So I have faced these exact decisions throughout my career.
Good morning. Garrett Harley. I'm our Director of Product Marketing in Oracle's construction engineering business. I've been a 25 plus year project controls guy and looking forward to the conversation today.
Hey everybody, Josh Canner. I'm in the Construction and Engineering Oracle Global Industry Unit, helping with AI and analytics. And I bring to the role 20 years of construction and engineering technology background. I've been founder and CEO of 2 startups. The most recent one was all about how do we use the increasingly digital data we have in construction along with AI to better improve project and program outcomes. So really excited to be a part of this webinar today and to contribute some thoughts on AI. I'll turn it over to Farhad.
Yeah, my name is Fahad Qazi. I'm a Senior VP of Business Applications and Digital Transformation at Target Hospitality. We provide, as a company, we provide turnkey workforce housing solutions. Largely, we serve 3 segments. Oil and gas is huge, is big for us. Government is second, and third, which is a growing segment for us, is data centers and AI space. That's all from my side.
All right. Thank you for those introductions. We're going to kick things off with a quick poll just to see what everybody is currently working with. So if you could take just a moment and let us know which tool you're currently utilizing, and we'll get started with our conversation in just a moment. All right. Seems like there's a good combination of tools in use. We've got Microsoft Project, we've got Primavera, we've got a combination of Microsoft Project, and then Ecosys. So to kick things off today, let's set the stakes. So starting off with Nicole, Microsoft Project Online is sunsetting. And when you put your CIO hat back on, what's the first thing you'd be thinking of right now?
Well, as a CIO, the instinct that I would have to fight is the urge to just panic replace. It's the Project Online's going away. What's the closest thing that's easiest to swap to, and just get everybody over there before the deadline. And that's what deadlines do. They push you into a fast decision before you necessarily know what you need. So the first thing I do is slow down for a minute. Ask myself, ask the organization, what are we really trying to accomplish here? Not which tool, but what does good look like for how we run our projects? How mature is our process today? What's working, what isn't? Because yes, there's a deadline, but there's still time to do this right. The date is real, but it's far enough out there that you can build a strategy and a roadmap instead of just grabbing the nearest replacement and slamming it in there. Moving thoughtfully now is going to put you, and I believe would have put me and my organization in a much better spot than rushing towards a replacement.
Okay. So is the bigger risk in staying within the Microsoft ecosystem for organizations working within AEC, or is it moving too quickly without a clear strategy?
For most organizations, it's going to be moving too fast without knowing your requirements. You're forcing your old habits into a new tool, calling it a migration, but you're not ending up in a better place, and in some cases you could end up in a much worse place. Staying in the Microsoft world isn't wrong for everyone. If your use is light, you're really just looking at some task management, it might be a reasonable path. But for larger project work, you're probably going to outgrow what those tools were built for. The scheduling depth, the cost control, portfolio visibility. These are things that really matter for your high value projects. So the risk isn't so much the destination that you're picking, but it's picking it blind. Really understand what you need first so that either path or, either path is a good defensible decision rather than guessing at what's going to fit your needs.
Okay, so that brings us into our next line of questioning. So what are the options? So to Nicole again, if organizations are evaluating their options today, what paths are realistically on the table?
There's a handful of paths, and it really depends on how you're using Project Online in the first place. And if how you're using it is meeting all of your needs or not, because I think that's a dangerous assumption. But if you're using it lightly, just task lists, basic tracking, getting the visibility to things that need to be executed, then the direction to Planner Premium is, that's where they're making their investment, and that might meet your needs. But I think for most of the companies that we're talking to here and who are running real capital programs, large construction projects, even within your IT organization, projects with a lot of dependencies, and critical paths, that's where a platform like Oracle's Primavera Cloud OPC it comes in. It's going to be a real step up in capability, yet still gives you options that are simple enough for your simpler projects. It can really handle the gamut. But again, I'm going to go back to what I said before. The tool isn't your first decision. So the first decision is really understanding what are your different levels of need, because it's probably not the same across the board. What I saw in my last company was even within our construction operations, we had very different projects. We had some extremely large, complex, long-term projects that were joint ventures and had a lot of moving parts and pieces. Then we had projects that were paving a road for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles. And today our plan was to pave the road, and tomorrow the plan was to pave the next section of the road. So having a tool that was flexible enough that could handle both of those types of projects, yet still roll everything up so that our construction operations could see where all of the projects stood.
Mm-hmm.
That was a value proposition.
Okay. So to Garrett, you're seeing this across the market. What are organizations actually doing right now, and where do you see them struggling in this decision-making process?
Yeah, as Nicole mentioned, we know where the cutoff is, and organizations are essentially just working backwards from that. Where most struggle is not having clarity on a few key things. Requirements. As Nicole was mentioning, here's what we hear. We've been working this way for a while. It's comfortable. It feels like just business as usual. But it doesn't necessarily, validate what are our actual requirements if we were looking to be able to do things differently. So cutoffs force us into spending time to actually write that stuff down. And most underestimate that part, in part because it's an event that I didn't really ask for. But it's where I need to now interrogate how I really do things. And the other struggle that we hear are the tendency to go straight into these comparisons of current state, the feature type of stuff, which is fine, it matters. But does it do the stuff that I need to currently do now? But it might fail to get clear on what the big rocks are that we might be looking to towards the future. So forced change can offer the perfect time to broaden the aperture from just tool replacement thinking into process improvement thinking. And what more could I get? That question moves right to the front of the line. And it should extend into areas that you strategically care about. So let me drop a few big rock examples just for the major stakeholders that are typically involved in these decisions. So let's say I'm in IT. What do I care most about? Is it cloud first? But can it play nice with where I am to make whatever this transition needs to be easy? Is it AI ready? And how does that differentiate from what others might be doing? Does it work the way that my industry works? So let's say I'm in operations. Is it made for me? Is it made for my industry? Does it support the way that my users actually do their jobs? What about execs? Is it proven for Like, have others done this? I don't want to necessarily be the first one to have to run through the wall.
Mhm.
Or how affordable is it? What kind of contract vehicles exist? Are there tiers in the licensing structure, which Nicole started to mention? How do we go through a contractual arrangement that makes it easy for this transition to happen? And what do all groups share in common? Is it future-proof? Will I be forced into the same box again anytime soon, or worse, have to wait for things that I know that I need right now?
Okay. So, Garrett, you brought up a little bit about AI, so I would like to move over to Josh. So as organizations are evaluating their options, how should they be thinking about AI as part of that decision, of part of the solution? What should they be looking for, or maybe even being cautious about?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll pick up on some themes that Garrett and Nicole have mentioned already. So one of the key themes here is you're, as an organization, thinking about AI. Although generative AI is, what's all the rage these days, right? As of ChatGPT 2022, AI has been around for a decade. I'm kind of like a broken record when I go out there. Like, we've been and talked to folks. Just giving a talk yesterday here in Manhattan, and we've been using AI since for over 10 years. Computer vision, there's speech, there's natural language processing. And so some of the themes around AI and really making the most of it, Megan, are pretty consistent for the last decade. The first one is data, right? So how do you get a hold of your data? And that's where I think this transition, this OPC, potential transition to OPC for Microsoft project customers, I think it's a really awesome opportunity. To pick up on something Garrett was saying, it's an opportunity to take a look at some of these parts of the way as an enterprise you may be working today, and look at it as an opportunity to make the most of, for example, your data strategy. So what do I mean specifically? So OPC, one of the key design parameters as a product for Oracle Primavera Cloud is that it's designed to be able to handle both simple and complex projects. This is something that Nicole mentioned, right? So some companies today, they think, well, P6 or even maybe other scheduling tools, we just use them for complicated projects, and maybe we use Microsoft Project for the simple stuff, or maybe even, they'll say this in a whispered voice, well, we actually, we use Excel, so, or even worse, maybe Word. So as you think about this transition, it's a great opportunity to think about moving all of your scheduling to OPC, so that you can use both simple and complex project templates in there. And now you have all of a sudden made yourself much more ready for AI. Because one thing that's unifies AI, again, over 10 years now and more, is that the more data you have, the better the AI can function. It's got more input, it's got a broader scope, it's got now more to learn from now with the rise of LLMs. And that's the point I would start with. Like, hey, let's get your whole scheduling data set into OPC. And by the way, there are plenty of customers who are taking old schedules and putting them into OPC as a part of the migration, because then you've got an awesome data set that you can run AI on top of. And then you can use the AI capable features of OPC, which is my second point, which is a really powerful set of capabilities. So some of the OPC AI capabilities are relatively straightforward, but really powerful once you have all your scheduled data together. So one of those is there are awesome APIs for OPC. You can get your data, you can do things with it in your own tools. You get basically a lot of freedom to be able to act on top of the OPC data. Another really powerful capability in OPC, and this is a really important part actually of Oracle writ large, our overall strategy, is that we as Oracle, we are embedding AI into our products directly. So AI, which can seem really complicated and kind of scary, it's actually just a feature that's now being enabled in OPC. And there's more and more AI coming in OPC, from help assistance to schedule generation and a lot more. So when you're thinking about AI, those would be the 2 points I would make. I could make many more, but I don't want to go over my allotted time. The first one is OPC is a great opportunity to get your data house in order, both by using both simple and complex projects all in one platform. So you have all your projects there. It's also a great way to get your data house in order because you can bring everything into OPC. And then the second piece is you can take advantage of all of OPC's AI native features and data access to really turbocharge your schedule related AI. When you talk to, when we talk to folks in the construction and other industries, this is going back to what Craig said at the beginning, it's the schedule. The schedule is a critical part of your overall data landscape if you want to do AI to improve your project delivery. And with that, turn it back to you, Megan.
Okay. So I actually want to move over to Fahad. I would love for you to take us through your experience. What options did you evaluate and what ultimately made you decide to make the move?
Yeah, I mean, we were heavily in bed with Microsoft projects. That's what we did. We used for a lot of our construction needs in terms of scheduling and so forth, right? There has been a significant ramp up in our AI data center segment, where we are servicing a lot of these neo cloud and hyperscalers, right? We are building them camps. Relatively, these camps are built within 2 to 6 months. We're working with a lot of the EPCM companies. So essentially, the need was to go to a more reliable and robust platform, and we picked OPC. And we evaluated a number of options. We evaluated P6. We evaluated P6 on cloud. So Oracle has a number of different delivery methods, I would say. The one that we went with is OPC, and the criteria that we looked at was the ramp up time, right? The ramp up time was relatively very quick if we were to jump on OPC. So that was very important to us and to my construction team partners. And then we also knew that Oracle, since it's easy and fast, it has its I would say, since it's all provisioned in cloud, the ramp up time is much more quicker. And then we also know that Oracle will continue to enhance this SaaS model, right? So things will only get better with time. The other thing that also went into my decision making was, since we are primarily an Oracle shop on the back office side, we use Oracle ERP and EPM, and so it just made sense to add this product into our ecosystem, right? So those were some of the thoughts that went in terms of that decision making.
Okay. So moving into the next section, the real world impact of OPC. So to Fahad, when you made the move to OPC, what was the biggest gap it solved compared to what you had before?
Yeah, now think about it, right? So as I said before, right? So we provide a turnkey workforce housing solution, which starts from construction, build, right? These are very time sensitive projects, right? So project delivery on time is very important to us and to our customers. So what we tried to solve here was, the version control was important to us, right? Source of truth, collaboration with EPCM companies. So now we are working with a lot of EPCM companies who are very structured in their ways of doing things. So OPC provides ease of use where you can export those schedules, can send it out to your partners, can be embedded into their overall project plan and so forth, right? So and some of the other things that we looked at also is, if I look at my team, essentially, they used these different spreadsheets and then different version of projects. So you did not know which is the current file, which is the stale file, right? So there was always that confusion aspect that could come into play. And then just inconsistent practices that would follow, right? So this gave us that opportunity to go back and streamline our processes. And so these were some of the thoughts went in terms of solving the problem on hand.
Great. So Nicole, we've we've said OPC isn't really a tool replacement, it's more of a shift. So what changes when organizations treat this as a broader transformation initiative?
Well, I think from what Fahad just said, really when you're treating this as a transformation, you're changing what question you're answering. In my past organizations, we ran all of these tools, Project Online, Planner, Project, the old desktop project and P6. And in all of those places, even though with P6 we had the ability for it to be something else, really how we were running it was it's a personal planning tool. It's one project manager, one person who is creating this schedule, updating it, they're the owner of this schedule. They're controlling their data. They're updating it from other sources themselves. There's generally still a lot of Excel spreadsheets, and it's one person's tool. But when you move to something like OPC, then the schedule stops being one person's file and it's shared data. Just like Fahad said, we're working with other engineering firms, we're working with other companies, and now this is something that's a shared tool that we're all working on as a team and contributing to. And if done right, you're going to get a much better quality, much broader information, and you're going to be able to take all of these things into consideration. But then it's shared data. So dates, logic, baselines, costs, who's accountable, what's approved. All of that has to line up because you now have a whole team of people who are relying on that. And it's not just going through the manipulations that take it out to a project, a PowerPoint deck or another Excel spreadsheet that people are reviewing. So, the shift I see is it goes from how do I track my project to how does leadership trust the data across the whole portfolio? And that's a different problem. And I think that is really the true problem that most companies are facing now. And so for an organization to really get value out of this, they're the ones who are going to treat this migration as a moment to fix the underlying process, to set the guidelines for how does this data get established, how does it get changed, who changes it, and not just taking your old habits and putting them into a new tool. But in all honesty, this is where it gets harder because you're not just retraining people on a new software and click here instead of clicking here. This field's now called this. You're asking them to change the way they work and who owns what, how are decisions getting made, and that's real work. It's a different type of work, and you've got to make sure you've got the right people involved and empowered to have those discussions, to make those decisions, and put a plan in place for how you're going to be successful with that.
Great. So Garrett, I know you've seen a lot of these transitions, and what are the patterns you've seen when organizations realize that they've outgrown Microsoft Project Online?
What we hear from customers, and there are lots of them now who have made this move, is kind of shockingly simple. Why would I use two things if one will do? I engineer and I build real things. My projects have very specific vertical industry processes and requirements. And despite what Microsoft might think here, that all projects, no matter what I'm making, are all the same, in the real world, it's just simply not true. Engineering and construction programs and projects are unique animals. And knowing that, what we hear is, why would I continue to have something that handles small projects and then something else for how I want to handle large projects? Why do I continue to have something for beginners and then something entirely different for experts? So the pattern is, how do I get to a truly collaborative planning and scheduling practice I'd like one thing that helps everybody, where I can see all of that work together. That's it.
Okay. So I'd like to go back to Fahad. Earlier, you had mentioned some of the Oracle ecosystem that you have at Target. So beyond scheduling, how have you connected everything together around OPC, and what impact has that had on your team that delivers projects?
Yeah, so essentially, we started looking at the entire ecosystem, right? We just did not want to have a working system for the accountants. We just wanted to make sure that, right, for the field management and construction, they have proper visibility into processes, not only proper visibility into processes, but anything that is time bound, deliverable on time, that has a high reputation attached to the company, and obviously not only that, future growth as well, right? So in terms of what we did was we looked at other tools that Oracle had to offer other than OPC, right? So resource scheduling, OPC, and then we went further, started looking construction management, construction on the project execution side and the planning side. We started looking at other products like Procore and Oracle Unifier, right? So Oracle Unifier came out as a winner. Just one couple things there, right? So obviously it fits into our ecosystem because of the Oracle OIC infrastructure and whatnot that Oracle uses, right? There were some additional other benefits in terms of you could leverage payload integration using OIC services and whatnot, right? So Oracle Unifier came with 60 pre-configured business processes that were mostly around construction management, project controls, right? So we started looking at a little bit more holistically. We have started the implementation somewhere in Jan. We are about to go live just about the end of this month. So we will use one source of truth, which would be one work breakdown structure, right? And then the flow will be from one system to another system. We'll leverage all the automation that comes through the national native integration that Oracle has provided.
Okay.
And on top of that, also one of the things that comes to my mind is reporting, right? So we use FDI, and my expectation is, in the broadened sense, I'm gonna bring all these reporting into FDI, where we could further leverage AI in terms of prompt engineering and prompt utilizing prompt to retrieve data from management, right? So where they can use self-service model and can query system from leadership perspective, right? Not just relying on somebody else to give them reports and whatnot.
Absolutely. All right. So now when we're looking at AI, it's a buzzword. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's interested in it. Lots of noise around it. So to Josh, what is the difference about Oracle's approach, especially for construction and engineering, when it comes to AI?
Yeah, Megan, it's a great question. And I would echo a theme that I said in my prior remarks. One of them is that AI, there's been a lot of buzz about AI, I think, for like 10 years. It's pretty crazy. So one quote I like to give is the CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai. He said that AI is more important to humanity than fire or electricity. I don't know if my fellow panelists, have you heard that quote? No? Yes? No? Yeah, you've heard it? Yeah. So the thing that's interesting about it is not only is it a pretty grandiose statement, right? Sundar said that in 2018. He said it in 2018. before ChatGPT came out, before large language models. And what he was commenting on actually was computer vision AI, because he was talking about the release of Google Photos and some of these embedded new Google photo search capabilities. All of those now, if you think about them, we just take them for granted. Like, we could search photos, yeah, sure. I would also put in the same category, we take for granted things like spell check. We take for granted things like, Grammarly, which is a product that's now built into, our Microsoft products to check our grammar and stuff. My point in saying all that, Megan, is that Oracle's AI strategy of embedding AI into our applications is a very common pattern that we are now all used to in both our professional and our consumer lives. Like, we're going to see these features come in. And although there's a lot of, to your question, the theme of your question, there's a lot of buzz about AI right now, but there's been a lot of buzz for a long time. And what we're going to see and what we are working on at Oracle is taking that buzz and turning it into real, useful, usable features that are a part of the experience in our applications, whether that's OPC or Aconex or Unifier or Textura and more across the whole portfolio. So it's a really exciting time to be both a consumer and a business user of technology. To the other part of your question, what positions Oracle uniquely here is that Oracle is right at the forefront of being not just an application builder delivering products like OPC, but we also are an AI provider. We are an AI model delivery service. We're a hyperscaler that has in our technology portfolio the ability to deliver OpenAI models, Gemini models from Google, Llama models from Meta, Cohere models, of a variety of different types. And to do so in a way that, and I'll quote or paraphrase our CEO, Mike Cecilia here, is embedded in the mission critical applications that we as Oracle deliver. We don't do simple stuff. We're not here to do consumer applications. I guess TikTok aside, but we can leave that out of the equation for now. But we do mission critical stuff for construction and engineering, private sector, public sector, and what we have uniquely as Oracle is the ability to use our infrastructure layer, which also gives us access to all of these models, and to test it, battle harden it, and make sure it's safe and secure. And in doing so, we're doing two things for the customer. One is we're reducing the decision-making space from a very broad and it can be kind of complex right now. How do I use AI? Which model do I use? We're embedding these capabilities and we're doing the model selection, the model trade-offs, the performance versus cost. We're doing that on the part of the customer. And we're doing it on the basis of having pretty much all the models to choose from. So it's amazing power for our customers because we're managing that process for them. The other part of it, which I mentioned in passing, that's really important, is that Oracle, as a mission critical, again, we don't build the simple stuff, provider of software, we have extremely rigorous security and safety, and now in the age of AI, things like guardrails that we put all of our software through, especially AI-related software, so that the specific features you're getting, it's not only the best models and the best capability, it's also the most secure, with the most care paid to how can we actually deliver mission-critical AI in the context of the applications that we're delivering today. So those are a couple of ways that Oracle's different in terms of how we deliver AI. And I should say, just as my last point, one overarching way that Oracle is also different in terms of AI, you may not even notice it because it's so fundamental to how we operate. We're here today talking about construction and engineering in Oracle Primavera Cloud. And I was just talking about hyperscaler AI capabilities. A unique capability of Oracle is that we combine that industry knowledge and specificity around industries like construction and engineering with that hyperscaler and other technology, massively powerful foundation. And we bring them together to be able to unlock the power of tech for our customers through that industry and technology combination. And that's the ultimate differentiator that we see in the market for Oracle.
Awesome. So Let's look at it from an operator's perspective. So Nicole, put your operator hat back on. Where do you see AI saving the most time or reducing the most friction?
Yeah, there is a lot of hype, and basically, people have gone all the way to, well, we don't. The tool can do it all itself. We'll just give it the definition of what we're trying to accomplish here, and just find a tool that'll do it all, based on AI. But that's a lot of hype. And I think what's nice here, to Josh's point, is that it's being built into the places where we see the most friction, the most challenge, the things that should be automated because there's just no value from a human doing it over and over and over again. How the data gets integrated and how it gets moved into things, how it gets reported out. All of these pieces are great opportunities. But when I was looking at it from my organization, I really didn't want to be in the software business building these things out and having to make sure the guardrails are there and having to make sure that my token usage didn't fly through the roof. And all of a sudden, we've used our entire annual budget in 1 month because somebody built this thing out. So being able to use the things that are being built in and are coming out at speed based on all of these tools that are out there, that's what I want my team to just be able to take advantage of, as opposed to me having to invest in those things and build them and build up this whole infrastructure around that myself. The most friction wasn't from that initial build of the schedule, though. It was really everything around that. Then, okay, we've got this schedule. We're pulling status from 5 different places, trying to figure out why a date moved, what change where caused this date to move, getting a straight answer to, are we actually on track, without 3 people having to sit in a conference room and build a deck to be able to communicate that out. Those are all repetitive things that are based on rules, that are based on logic, that that AI can help with, and that's where it's going to help first. It can summarize where things stand without you having to look through a 20,000 line schedule. Flagging schedules that look off when you're looking at maybe 30, 40, 50 different projects that are in flight and up. Surfacing risk before it becomes a surprise. Maybe a milestone hasn't slipped yet, but it's trending that way. Not having to rely on an individual reading through all those lines and all those pieces, but having that surface to them. Those shouldn't be things that they have to go look for. And what AI gives us is the logic, the learning, the understanding, to be able to surface those things back up to us, so that then the human can do what the human needs to do, which is make the judgment calls. Okay, this is trending towards a slip. And maybe it can even tell me the why, but I want the human to tell me, now what are we going to do about it? Again, I think that the AI tools, from both an analytics and the application itself, are going to make all of that much easier for the operator, because it's going to surface better information. It's going to surface it faster. And even at some point, I believe, give you options. But I want my human project managers with the experience of the real world to be the ones who are telling me, yes, these are the options that we've got, and this is the one I'm going to go with for these reasons. But knowing that that project manager is now better informed than they've ever been before, because of what the tools AI is giving them to make that decision on. But this is where the foundation really matters. It's already come up today. The only way this works well is with good data, clean data, data that follows rules and is consistent and all those great things. And that's your foundation. And that's what something like OPC, that's a real platform, gives you. And that's where I really want to make sure that these organizations are moving more and more towards this, large data source that they get by having all of their projects running on one platform, because that is your foundation for very powerful AI and where all of it's going to go in the future. The other piece is context. It's data and it's context. And when you're using a single tool where you're able to build in those context rules, the decision-making rules, all of those pieces get built into your tool, then AI really has the information that it needs to be a valuable partner for you in all of this, and give you good information and lead you down the right path.
So Fahad, what is your perspective on the value of AI?
Yeah, I mean, Nicole is spot on, right? So I couldn't agree more what she said. I mean, in my case as well, if you look at it, right? So I'll use connected applications, right? So these are three different. So look at EPPM, OPC, and the unifier. These are all disparate applications, right? But they are connected, right? But from management's perspective, generative AI can help you source that information much quickly in a better way, right? It makes it a little bit easy in terms of they can go and query in layman language and can get a feedback, right? Can check quickly project statuses and so forth, right? They don't have to go and log into each application separately, right? And then again, not only that, within these applications, my expectation is my ecosystem is fully built, right? I'm hoping to improve on delivery predictability, right? So that's an important factor. Making sure my resources has proper visibility within OPC, right? And then the control side, obviously, I'm using Unifier for construction management. So the idea is early risk identification on cost and schedule, right? So there are a number of areas, right, that AI can help us reduce risk, reduce execution risk across all capital projects, right? So, if you're bringing knowledge on easily available on management, as and when they want to question, they don't have to bank on other people to give an answer for. I think exciting times. That's all I can say. Exciting times.
Absolutely.
But again, fundamentally, source of truth, right? So reliability on your data is important. Uh, what just Nicole said, data needs to be clean. So if you have good quality of data, the outcome would be much better. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So the next step is, how do I get started? So I'm going to stick with you, Fahad. If you could go back to the start of your journey, what advice would you give to someone about to go through this transition?
Yeah, I would say map your design, right? You need to have your clear objective and then go back to the drawing board. Design your ecosystem, right? Try to stick with one ecosystem. Don't have disparate system. If you are an Oracle shop, my recommendation is stick with Oracle. Oracle has has good lineup in products within the construction and engineering space, right? Stick with one platform, one ecosystem. Leverage OIC for payload transfers. You don't have to pay additional dollars. It comes free out of the box. As long source and destination are Oracle applications, there's no additional cost to you, right? So not much cost burden. And then training is the key. Make sure you have firm commitment from your user base, right? Some of these projects don't go well because field is busy in your existing pipeline of projects. So make sure that you have firm commitment that they can put time to the implementation. I think that is really, really important. And I think that is something that I went and made sure that I have a commitment from our senior VP of construction. So regardless where they are, they make sure that they attend all our calls. Decision making is quick, right? So these are the factors that I would recommend for anybody who is going in this space. They should keep that in mind.
Great. Garrett, Nicole, or Josh, any other thoughts that you'd like to add there?
I'd just say that, I think taking a really hard look, and I say this for every system selection that I work with companies to do, is to really make an honest assessment of what business outcomes do you want from this. It's really easy when talking about a scheduling tool to say, well, we want to have on time and on budget projects, but for when you dig into that, most of us want to deliver really exceptional projects. We want projects that are going to win those big awards at the, at the end, when you get out there, that are going to get that recognition, that are going to really further your brand, further your organization. What does it take to deliver projects from a scheduling perspective that's going to do that? And yeah, we want to be on budget, but what is that, what kind of margin targets do we want to hit? What kind of, what are the real business outcomes that are totally separate from your tool? And identify those, because those are the things that you're going to, when you get to the point of choosing a tool, you're going to want to make sure that your tool has the functionality to support the capabilities that your organization needs to demonstrate in order to hit those business outcomes. And but the business outcomes should drive all the way down to the selection of your tools. And so look at what you really have, look at where your capabilities are right now, and look at your process to understand what tool is going to best support that and support where you want it to be, not just where it is now. Look at what it needs to connect to, what your tool needs to be able to connect to in order to deliver on those business outcomes and support those capabilities. And then really, and I know Fahad would echo this, look at your people, pick the right people, get the right folks involved. This is not an IT project. This is a business operations project. This is a critical operations tool for, the organizations that we're working with here. So pick the right people, invest in their training, identify your where you're going to get the biggest resistance, and make sure you bring them into the fold early, because they're also going to give you some of the critical pieces that are going to help you really succeed with this migration. And then the last piece is, don't rush through all of this just because there's a deadline. There's a lot of places to get help. We are here to help for sure. Oracle's here to help. And we can get you to that date while still doing all of the right things.
Yeah, I would add just a couple of thoughts to that, Megan. One is, I have great appreciation for Nicole as an ex-operator. And I just want the audience to understand that she's a former CIO, and she's at Broadpin now, helping other operators through the journey. So as a longtime software executive, Nicole, I just wanted to say I appreciate your operations perspective, and I want to underscore that for our audience, that it's a really valuable thing that Broadpin is bringing there. And along similar lines, I wanted to highlight, Farhad, what you have gone through and your journey, and making the choice to standardize on OPC, to select Unifier. You are also, for the audience, Farhad is an operator, and he's giving you his experiences as they went through that journey and made that selection process. But I would just highlight both of them as operators, offering their perspectives here and giving, I think, some really great guidance to the audience here, Megan.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. we do have one last quick poll before we get into the questions and answers. So we'll give everybody a few moments to go through this poll, and we'll see what comes in from that. But as we're moving towards that, if I'm looking through the questions that have come in, one of the questions that I'm seeing is, what is the biggest misconception about moving off Microsoft Project? And I know we only have a couple of minutes, but if Nicole, if you could let us know the misconceptions you've heard, and then Fahad, let us know from your perspective whether those are true or false, or any insights into them.
Well, I think that it's the biggest misconception that I hear about moving from Microsoft Project to OPC is that OPC is only for the really large, complex projects that, the multi-year, lots and lots of subcontractors, a lot of complexity, where in reality, it spans the simple to the complex, so that you really it can handle all of them. The other would be that you have to migrate everything from to be up and running day one. We talked a lot about the data and the value that you'll get from the data and the history, but that you don't have to do that for day one, and you don't have to have every single piece in place for day one. You can get up and running very quickly, and then make the choices about what else you're going to turn on, what else you're going to migrate, which then leads to the last one, which would be, well, it's going to take too long. We don't have time to get this new tool rolled in. But it's doesn't have to take a long time, especially if you get help and you're using a guided and proven plan. You've got plenty of time to do this, and to really end up with a good solution.
Yeah, I agree, Nicole. I think so. From my perspective, right? So, there's conception about in terms of ease of use. Primera OPC, it's user friendly. So it's not that it's a big lift for the user base to go and get trained, and so you can do it pretty quickly. We did it last year. Our ramp up time was very quick, right? So the cost side, these licenses are not very expensive. So the dollar impact is very small. Now, in terms of your data conversion, that is also pretty easy. So you can do an export of your work breakdown structure, task breakdown structure, right? And then pull all that information in. So make sure you have the management buy-in, right? Make sure that it's coming from their management. I'm talking about construction and operation, not IT management or some other management. It goes a long way. So that support goes a long way. We have rolled out successfully, and our last phase of Unified is just about getting done this month. So I'm looking forward to the integrated solution that Broadpin is putting for us.
Absolutely. So with that, I would like to say thank you to everybody for attending, and a big thank you to all of our panelists for participating. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out. We are happy to help you. Have a great afternoon, have a great evening, and we'll see you on the next webinar.
Thank you, everyone. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan, for moderating.
Thanks.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you all.